Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Saimah, this is Saimah's Experience, and welcome to my channel where I go over all things Turo. In this video, I'm going to go over the 6 things that are absolutely crucial to know before you begin renting your car on Turo. Imagine you rent your car out and you missed one of these steps in Turo's system. What that means for you as a host is that you are going to be left with any financial liability related to that misstep in the system. And I cannot tell you guys how many people I experience that are new and coming onto the platform that forget one of these crucial elements and they end up in really bad positions because they just simply didn't know. So please, 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 I urge you, let this video be a guide to the 6 things that you absolutely must know and get down before you let your car go out on its first trip. So let's jump into number 1. All right, so number 1, documentation is so key. If you are not going to take pre-trip photos and properly vet the driver's licenses of your guest, you really should not do Turo because you're pretty much assuming all the risk when you do that. So you have to make sure that you have enough time and that you are systemized as a person to document the condition of the car. And I seriously do recommend that you take at least 30 photos before the start of a trip and then at least another 30 at the end of the trip. This is so important. I cannot tell you guys how many people I see make this mistake. They'll let their cars go out on rentals thinking, oh, it's no big deal, like everything's gonna be fine. And sure enough, that's the very trip where you run into issues and somebody gets into an accident or your car comes back with damage. And you as the host, regardless of if you have host protection or not, or whatever your situation is, whatever plan you're on, you are gonna be left holding the ball if you don't have the proper documentation. And it's not just about taking the photos, but it's about getting them uploaded and checked into your reservation in a timely manner. So you have to get it done by the start time of the trip and you have to get it done within 24 hours after a trip ends. These things are very important, and I find that new hosts overlook these details, which are literally a part of the core system of Turo. And if you do that, you're going to end up with the financial liability and the outcome is not good, and the outcome is definitely not income in that situation. So I am, as I go through these points, going to post links to the details on Turo's FAQ so that you can read further into it. Also, I have a great video on how to properly document your car, which you can click on this card above and watch that video, and that's going to give you a thorough walkthrough on exactly how I take photos of my car. Number 2, verifying your guest's driver's license. This is so important, and this is one of those things that's really easy to miss because let's just say you are good at getting your renter's driver's license, but oftentimes, and it even took me years to get this down myself, was you forget to really look at the expiration date clearly. And oftentimes you'll find that people have expired licenses and that would not make them eligible to rent your car. Now, for whatever reason, Turo's system is not dynamic when it comes to verifying a guest driver's license. Should it be? Probably, but their system does not handle that. So this is a manual thing that you have to do as a host, and you have to make sure that you do it with accuracy because it could negate any coverage that you have as a host if you rent your car out to somebody who is not eligible to drive to begin with. Okay, so there are 3 ways to do this. The first is if you're meeting with your guest in person. If you're meeting with them in person, it's as simple as asking them for their driver's license, you taking a picture of it and uploading it to the reservation. Number 2 is doing contactless handoffs, right? Which is very common these days because of everything that's going on. So what you want to do in that situation is 24 hours before the start time of the trip or anywhere within that 24-hour window, you want to send your guest a message requesting them to upload 2 photos. The first is a photo of their driver's license, and the second is a selfie of them holding their driver's license to their face so that you can in fact verify that they are the same person that's on the license. So let's just pretend these little stickies are a driver's license. So you want them to send you a photo of the actual license, and then you want one that looks like this, and you have to make sure that you can clearly see that the photo on the license matches the actual person. Just make sure that's not blurry and you can clearly see that, so that there's no reason for it to be refutable if anything does go wrong. And like I mentioned, make sure you check that expiration date. It is so important. You don't want to rent your car or hand off keys to anyone that has a license that is expired, because that it just goes against Turo's system. And then finally, number 3 is Turo Go. If you have a car that's on Turo Go, that's actually the only one where you don't have to do anything as a host, because Turo's system will verify if the guest driver's license is valid or not prior to the start of their trip as they go through the check-in process. Now, one very important thing about how exactly to verify a driver's license. So the way that Turo's system works is that they don't show you the renter's information along with their date of birth till the end of the check-in process. It doesn't quite make sense to me why it's that way, because you would think that it should be in the beginning of the process to make it easier for you to verify, but that is how it works. So what you want to do always, again, going back to that documentation, is make sure that you take your photos ahead of time of your car and that you go through the check-in process on the trip, upload all your photos, and at the very end, the very last step, Turo is going to show you the name of the renter who is verified and eligible to drive your car along with their date of birth. And that is how you verify, if their license is accurate. And yes, there will always be people out there that are scammers and will maybe try to give you a fake license. So it's important to pay attention to these details. Often what I like to do is when I get to that last screen, I like to take a screenshot of it so I can compare that against the driver's license in case the renter has not yet uploaded it. Number 3, car maintenance. So Turo has some strict safety standards that you as a host have to abide by, right? Because to a certain extent, a renter's safety is in your hands, and you have to make sure that you provide a car that meets those safety standards and is putting somebody in a safe vehicle for their trip and that they don't run into any issues. So I'll name off sort of the 4 big safety standards, and then there'll be a link in the description to Turo's site where you can see it all in detail. But the main ones are this: tire tread life, so the depth on a tire. You cannot rent your car out with bald tires or metal showing on the inside. It is not safe. That can definitely lead to accidents, punctured tires, especially if you're in an area with bad roads, and you just don't want that. So Turo's safety standard on that is that it has to measure 432 or above, and you can simply get like a $3 slime tire tread depth gauge, and you can check the life on your tires, and it's really easy to track. Then next is your brakes. You have to make sure that your brakes are up to par, that they're not worn out, that you can't hear the metal rubbing together. That would be bad news. You cannot rent your car out with the check engine light on. That's an automatic, if anything happens, you are responsible as a host if the check engine light was on the dash. And they know that because you have to take a dash photo before the start of the trip. So it is documented. And then finally, your tire pressure sensor, TPS, cannot be on the dash either. You cannot have these things because these are major safety issues. I have had claims where somebody got into an accident and they did call into question the life of the tires, right? And luckily, because I keep track of my tires and I measure them all the times, I keep documentation for when I get them replaced, and I take photos of the depth gauge, I was able to prove that no, my tires were good and this accident was caused by entirely something else. So this is something that you actually want to monitor quite closely so that you don't find yourself in a situation to where the safety of your vehicle when you gave it to the guest is being called into question. So one to really watch out for when you list your car on Turo. Number 4, understanding your host protection plan, otherwise considered insurance. This is really important, and it's actually a subject that there is a lot of detail to, so I'm going to link a video that I've made recently that dives really deep into it. But the main thing about this is that you have to understand what your coverage is and what you are responsible for as a host. There's so many people that I've encountered that have had situations where their renters get into accidents, and maybe they chose a lower your host protection plan where their deductible was a couple $1,000 and they were under the impression that the renter, because they were at fault, that they would be responsible for that deductible. And that's not quite how it works. As a host, in brief, you are responsible and your protection for your vehicle comes from your host protection plan. It is unrelated to whatever insurance the guest chose, whether they're at fault or not. That is completely separated from you. The reason for that is because guests do have the choice to decline coverage, and then it is up to Turo to pursue the guest for the money that is going to pay out for the damages that occurred to your car. And they're not always able to collect on that. So that is why your protection comes from your plan that you're on with Turo, and it's all on your side. It sounds a little weird, and it goes far more into detail as to why that is. So I'm going to link that video so you guys can just watch that, because otherwise I'll be here for 20 minutes trying to explain that to you. But do understand and take the time to read through your host protection plan. I will put the Turo link in my description so you can read it in detail. And for those of you that ask me all the time what plan I'm on the 70/30. I do keep my host protection quite dynamic throughout the year based on how business is going. You can change it at any time. You can have different plans for different cars. It is totally up to you how you want to set it up. I'm currently at the 70. That's typically where I stay majority of the time, but sometimes I'll do things like if business gets really busy, I'll drop that insurance coverage because it's more profitable for me to take the extra percentage and take the little bit of an added risk on the higher deductible. So it all depends on what your math is and what your revenue is. But I am on the 70/30 plan, meaning Turo takes 30% of whatever my day rate is. And I have found that to be quite fair. The deductible on that is $250. So I think it's pretty easy to deal with in most situations that you may encounter. And I think a lot of hosts find that to be true as well. So something you want to take a little bit of time and really research, and most importantly, work out the math on what you think it might be based on the car that you have and the revenue generating days that you're projecting it to have in a given month. Number 5. So before I get into number 5, I just wanted to stop for a second real quick and say that if you guys are hopefully finding some value in this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I have updated videos on Turo on a weekly basis, so you guys will definitely find that super helpful in your Turo journey. Number 5, trackers. Now there is some debate on this between hosts, so I'm going to share my personal opinion. I absolutely require having trackers on my cars for my own peace of mind. It is true that when you have your host protection plan in place from Turo and something happens to your car, let's say it gets stolen, for some reason it's not returned and you just don't know what happened to it and you have no communication from your guest, yes, your car is covered. They will total it out and you will get paid back for the actual cash value of your car. Now, why I like having trackers is because in those instances, I like having control over that situation. I like knowing where my car is and knowing that if it ever gets to that type of a situation, that I can work with Turo's team and let them know, hey, my car is here and this is where we need to repossess it from. The reason being because there is way too much money lost in the process of a car being stolen and then you getting paid out as a host and kind of just going through all of that. When a car is totaled, it takes at least 6 to 8 weeks to see your payout on that. Now, if it's stolen, then there is a little bit more investigation that's involved, and Turo has to make sure that that car is actually stolen and that it cannot be recovered or repossessed, and then that process begins. So there's just a lot of lost time and a lot of lost money. Not only that, but most people, the position that they're in with their vehicles is that they're most likely, more often than not, they're in an upside down position. So either you have tons of depreciation or you have negative equity. So if that car gets stolen and then you make that insurance claim, the actual cash value that you're going to get paid out is most likely not what you owe on the car or maybe what you put into the car. So that's going to turn into a loss for you, which is why I make the argument for having trackers. It is just an all-around better situation. And I've been in these instances where my cars have been stolen, and if it hadn't been for my trackers, we would have never been able to repossess those vehicles. So you end up just saving money in the end, right? You end up having more revenue generating days, and you can kind of carry on with business instead of having to go through this whole process, which at times can be quite lengthy. And, let's just say in an unfortunate situation where you may have missed one of the 4 steps prior to this one, well, then your claim might not be honored at all, and you would just set yourself up for a lot of exposure to financial risk. So just not a good idea. Definitely get a tracker. There's all kinds. I personally prefer hardwired trackers. So either in the engine compartment or somewhere that is not visible in the car. There's so many out there. You can just Google it. I personally use TrackMe GPS. Also, these days, most cars do come with built-in tracking. You want to just check on that and make sure that it's not one of those trackers that can be disabled from inside the car through the settings, and you should be good to go. Finally, one of my favorite points to talk about, which is so important, is that when you list your car on Turo, you are not in the car rental business. This is not the car rental business, and that is what people most commonly think when they think about Turo and listing their car. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. You are in the business of providing an experience. That's what the Turo platform is. And that is just the way that our world is shifting. People are willing to pay for an experience, whatever that might be. It is not just about, hey, you list your car and somebody rents it from you and that's it. No, it's about that interaction that they have with you as a host. It's about the detail that you put behind the car that you're offering, the value that you present to the renter. And I would really encourage you guys to just go on the platform and do a little research. Find yourself a host who has great ratings, is an all-star host. You're welcome to look at my profile. The link is in the description below, and read the reviews from people. You will notice that 90% of the time, the review that is left behind by the guest is not so much about the car, but about the host. So don't worry if you're not offering some high-end luxury vehicle or, a Vanderhaul or a Polaris Slingshot, like something that has, that perceived value of being cool, because it's not about that. So much of it, majority of it, is about the experience that guests have with you as a host. How was your communication with them? Did you walk them through the process? Was it seamless? Was it flawless? Was it easier for them to go rent from you versus going to a Hertz, an Enterprise, or a Budget? Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that people value. And I know this just from doing this for so long and from almost hosting 3,000 trips. There's so much that you can learn from just simply talking to your guests. When they come back, talk to them about what they liked about the experience, what could be better. And you would be surprised at how many people will tell you exactly what you need to do to run your Turo business successfully. People are very open to giving feedback. So that's the thing that you really want to keep at the forefront of your mind, is that Turo is not a car rental business. You're in the business of providing an experience to your peers. You're sharing yourself and your car with those that are around you. And it's in Turo's tagline too, right? It's called Their tagline is rent the car, own the adventure. It's all about that, people paying for an experience, and the better experience that you provide, it actually has a compounding effect over time, because the more rave reviews you have where people are telling a story about their interaction with you, that compounds, that allows you to charge a higher day rate, because that has value to it to a potential future buyer. So that's the thing that you really want to build. You want people to tell a story about their experience with you in their reviews. And people totally do. Like I said, go research some profiles and read those reviews, and you'll see it for yourself. And if you want to experience it, if you're new to the platform and you're trying to figure out exactly how to do this, find a great host and go rent from them. That is the best way for you to go through the motions of being a guest and seeing what it's like, and see what you can model and what you can emulate from a great host that's already on the platform. That will literally give you everything you need to do this business in the right way and have it work out really well for you. That is literally the secret to doing this really well and being able to grow into this and have this really become a strong revenue stream for you. So that is my last and final tip of the 6 things that you should absolutely know before listing your car on Turo. And you have to really practice all of these. Put it into your system, make it a part of your routine, and you absolutely will do great on the platform. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Once again, my name is Saimah. This is Saimah's Experience. And if you like this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, guys.